to the Making Up the Numbers podcast. The Making Up the Numbers podcast is sponsored by Hope Technology, J-Tech Suspension, Revolution Bike Park, Ride Southern Spain, Schwal, and the world's finest independent mountain bike magazine, Singletrack.
Season 4, Episode 6 of the podcast, and we are now over halfway through the 2022 World Cup season. I'm George Thompson, and in this show, we'll be reviewing the season so far, catching up with Luca Shaw, and previewing the next two World Cups in Snowshoe and Mont Sainte-Anne. Back alongside me are, of course, Jack Redding and Emilie Siegenthaler. How are we doing, guys?
Very good.
Good.
Yeah. Bit stressed, getting ready to go to the States. Are you all packed?
No.
I'm not all packed. At least we're again on that point. It's a bit hectic, but we're getting there. I'll be happy when we sit on the plane finally.
When do you fly?
I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure yet. That's the problem. That's the whole thing.
At least I know where to fly.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's supposed to be Sunday morning, but yeah, it's a bit hectic at the moment.
Yeah, we're leaving at 3:30 tomorrow morning for the airport, and I've still done very little. So, but it's been nice having a week at home, 3 weeks on the road, and came back absolutely exhausted on Sunday. So it's been nice to get some sleep.
Cool. Well, before we start talking about the last couple of World Cups, Jack, I have to ask you about the Mega Avalanche. You finished 9th, but you're in the top 3 until the kind of fitness game kicked in. Tell us a bit about it. How'd it go?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mint event. And I had, with all intention, planned on going into the event, like trained for it in terms of the amount of, I'd even thought I could go somewhere start of June and do some like high altitude training, and it just didn't work out like that. Like after feeling like my pace was coming back at Fort William, I was more interested in my downhill speed, and most of my training was geared towards that. So I did like some like rescue training the 2 weeks before, but only here and just going out for some trail rides. And I think I got on the watt bike twice. So it's just like mind blowing how much fitter those guys are when you're there experiencing it, and you're on your red line, absolutely fucking dying along a flat section or up a climb, just giving it everything you've got. Your lungs feel like they're coming out of your ass, like your eyes are bleeding. And then they just come past you like, vroom, vroom, vroom. And it's demoralizing as well. So it's like, because you're powerless to do anything. So yeah, I mean, it went really well. I got a good start. I was top 3 down the fast part of the snow. Conditions were very different to last year, like rocks to snow, which suited me a bit better. It was a bit more of like a downhill track. And then at one point we just had to get off the bikes and start running along this flat section of snow. It was so soft. And I mean, to put it in perspective, Hugo Pigeon came past us. He went from like 10th or whatever to 1st, and then just disappeared because he weighs like 60 kilo, whereas me and the other heavier boys, we had to get off and run because the bikes were sinking, as he just hovered along the top of the snow and just disappeared. So the rest of us were jogging for about 3 minutes at altitude. And so I managed to hang on to the top 10, which I was really happy with. But one year I definitely want to go in fit.
Yeah,
because
give it a proper go.
Yeah, front and like fighting, whereas I ain't fighting. At one point, I was running 6th along the flat, and 4 of them came past me like I wasn't moving.
Yeah.
But no, it's a sick event.
Cool. Well, Lenzerheide then. The first thing I think we need to talk about is Emmy doing the commentary. Was it for Swiss National TV?
Yeah.
How'd it go?
Good. Yeah. It was a great race to commentate. With Cam coming last as well. It was pretty hectic as well for the boys, and it was good experience. I did it before, but I guess the guy that does it is just so good at his job, so it's really easy when you're just there and like just talk about the race, talk about the people that he doesn't know, and then it's just a good mix having someone that knows what he's doing and me just like try to like talk specifics.
But how did you control the emotions with Cam coming down?
Well, it was kind of easy this time-ish because with the Miriam just like fucked it up a little bit for us because with the time she put down, it was the same as Nina in Fort William. I was just like, oh no. I just said it. I was like, well, we didn't need that because this is gonna be really hard to beat. So you could see this Cam was trying to running after her a little bit the
Yeah.
whole way down. But that was like, I guess when you're talking, it makes it better. It's just probably better than like being in the finish area, to be honest.
Less just thinking about that one
Yeah.
thing. So there were some track changes at Lenzerheide that made it a bit less bike parky. It looked much better. Was that the case? Did it ride better, Jack?
Yeah, for sure, definitely. It was awkward, technical, spaced out between flat out bike park. So yeah, rather than it just being flat out bike park, there were some sections to separate riders. One off camber, rooty section specifically, which was certainly up until race day. It was really tricky, and then race day, I think it was just bone dry, so everyone was just blasting across it. But yeah, it was good.
And you had a big one in quali. Tell us about your week, how it ended.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was Dan's first race back, and we didn't have him in a position to be trying to qualify. He was just getting some bike time. And Anna's in a similar situation to Dan, where she's just experiencing World Cups and just kind of getting a bit of the racing behind her. So we weren't expecting those two to qualify, and they didn't. But then Ben, our junior, didn't have a good weekend. So going up for my quali run, I knew the hopes of the team were on my kind of shoulders, and off my practice times, I knew I was going to have to level up. I was a couple of seconds shy of where I thought the cut would be, and the cut then ended up being even faster. And I just made a couple of mistakes. I was just inside at the first split, and then I just made a couple of little errors, and I knew I didn't have that to play with. So I just, in the fourth sector, I just really pushed. And honestly, after that, I was just before the fourth split where I crashed, and I just got high-sided and had a big one. But yeah, it was a bit stupid, really. A little bit of hot-headedness. I didn't want the team to not have a rider in, and I risked a little bit too much, which is something I want to get out of the habit of doing. Obviously, being the coach and the team manager and everything else. I don't want to be in a position at 33 where I'm risking my own neck, because I did hit my head and I cut myself to pieces. I looked like I'd been run over, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a bit stupid, a bit foolish, and it changed the way I approached Andorra, which I was happy about. So yeah.
Cool. And you're okay now?
Yeah, I'm okay now. It was I was cut to pieces. I had a nasty one on my hand, which wasn't great for Andorra, and but I'm good now.
And now Dan's back with the team. You just mentioned him then. How's his elbow doing?
Yeah, good. So Lenzerheide was his first one, and he didn't really know what to do, and I kept banging into him, stop, trying to push. Like, as soon as he made some comment like, "Oh, there's this and that," no, you're not here to fall on that elbow. So he did that and just rolled down, and I think he was about 8 or 9 seconds off qualifying. And then in Andorra, obviously another week on the bike and another week of confidence, he accidentally almost qualified. He had the same approach and was only a bang on a second off making the cut when he wasn't riding how he would normally do. So that was really good, really good. And he's now fully focused on Snowshoe and getting back pushing once we get out there.
The quality at Lenzerheide was insane, wasn't it? Was it out the top 60 in 10 seconds in the men?
Yeah, and Andorra was tight as well. Both tracks were just like a sprint.
Yeah. The racing then, I'm going to say something that might be a bit controversial now. I thought the women's race in Lenzerheide was more exciting than the men's. Would you agree with that? Because
I don't know.
That thing happened with the men's where a glut of the protected riders came down early. You had Aaron, Loic, Laurie, Danny, Troy, Finn, Angel, Greg. They'd all come down and there was still 17 to go. And they're the big names because more often than not, on race day, they deliver. And there was a bit of a lull from 17th right down, I think, till Matt Walker, who was 7th.
I can relate to that because we were standing watching, and I left after Matt because we had something going on with our vehicles and our pits, so I didn't watch the last 6. But yeah, that's exactly what happened. That someone even said, I think it was one of the juniors who was standing watching with us during that period of riders. He even looked across to someone and said, "Doesn't feel like a World Cup. This, what's going on?" And that is what happened. I didn't watch the women's because the women's obviously is happening while we're getting prepped and stuff. But yeah, the men's, I can relate to that for sure.
The women's though. Go on, Emmy, go on.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the women's was like, of course, there's like that whole thing with Valley again, then.
Yeah.
Which make it really exciting because obviously she like, crashed in quali, so she was a bit far down, and then she was doing a great run and then crashed again and like caught back up.
Yeah, that was
And
incredible.
yeah, that was pretty sick to watch. And then there's like also a couple of riders that are like close to her time, but not really. A bit like Finn's one. But then obviously there's Miriam, and that was like insane to watch.
Yeah.
And then obviously everyone was waiting for Cam to come down. So it kind of like the fact that she was the last rider down and the Swiss rider, they all like, I think also like the atmosphere was like a bit more hyped because she was the last rider down.
Yeah.
And then Zahad is a bit like that, where like the spectators really hyped up their local riders or like their own riders.
Yeah.
Which sometimes in other places it's not really the case. Like they hyped up every rider, but sometimes I'm like, oh my god, this is a bit embarrassing because when someone else comes down, they don't give a fuck. They're just like, oh yeah, well, it's whatever. Even if it's like Greg Minau or whoever, like if the speaker doesn't say, oh, there's Greg Minau coming down, just give him a round of applause. They'll be like, oh yeah. I can relate. Yeah.
You also had Rachel Atherton making a comeback.
Yeah.
Which was
sure.
another interesting factor.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Lenzerheid's where she laid down probably the greatest women's race run of all time. Good place for her to come back.
Oh yeah. I mean, I wouldn't know any other place where it would be good for her to come back because obviously she's never been to Snowshoe before, so she has huge disadvantage there.
Yeah.
Mont Sainte-Anne, you don't want to come back if you're not fit enough. And Val di Sole, same.
Yeah.
And Andorra, well, she liked Andorra before, but now the Andorra now that we had was like so gnarly, and like the risk-taking aspect is so big that I think she wouldn't have liked it. So I think it was a good place for her to come back, and she managed it pretty well, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think she might only be 2 wins off Anne Caroline's total number of World Cup wins. Do you think that's possible? Do you think she could come back and win again?
Oh, winning. Oh, I don't know about that. It really depends on like if she starts training again, like real hard.
Yeah.
Because if she doesn't, like, she's continue like the way she was doing in Andorra, she's in Lenzerheide, she's not gonna win. But if she gets fitter, like she was so much fitter than everybody else back then it could be a factor that's deciding the thing. But I don't know if she's motivated enough to do that, and she has like also like the setup that works for it.
Yeah, Miriam's run, you mentioned it before. It was one of the great runs potentially. We know she can do that though, don't we? When she puts it together. Yeah,
for sure. But like, I'd say the track also will like Jack mentions, like the changes in the track also kind of saved Cam though, I think. And that's why like she was like kind of like won qualies and like got more motivation to like keep things tight, or like as tight as you can get, because she didn't like Lenzerheide before. And I think that top section, Miriam also naturally likes this stuff, but like for Cam, getting a bit less spark parky was like really life-saving kind of thing. So it's good to see them fighting for it. And but Miriam's run was like on point, no mistakes, and Cam was pushing a little too hard, I guess.
Yeah. Well, on to the men's then. Amaury took his 3rd win from 4 races with another faultless run. What can you say about that run, Jack?
I mean, I don't know if anyone has watched the GoPro of it, but it's well worth it.
I did.
Yeah, it's just the same as, I think it's the same as what I said about his Fort William run. Like, you can just see how much trust he's putting in the front end, and he's pulling the bike off lines and onto lines where everybody else is still like trying to figure out where they are. And the power of the lad and the commitment is one thing, but then the talent he's got as well. You put all those things together, and when it works out, he's just unbeatable, isn't he? But like we've seen with the nature of the sport, there's so many other factors. So in Andorra, he got bit by that tree, and it meant he had to roll down for a 13th, which in his books is not what he's about. So, excuse me. So the run was amazing.
Greg Minnaar back on a World Cup podium at 40 years of age. Was that the greatest achievement of the weekend, do you think?
I don't know. I was completely forgot about Greg, actually, this weekend before he got his run. I was just like, because I was next to the track and I didn't feel watching him ride that he was like on pace, or it was just like, puzzling so hard with lines and like stopping a lot and like looking a bit like kind of weird on the track. And I was like, whoa, we've seen Greg do that before. It's not the first time, but usually it doesn't really work out for him when he does that.
Right.
And he proved me wrong, like totally. And yeah, I think it's amazing. But I enjoyed like Finn's run like way more, like the slow-mo replay that you see of Finn coming out of that new section.
Yeah.
Freaking bars to the floor.
Yeah.
Scrubbing that, like it's insane. I've probably never seen that before. Like it was actually insane run, and I was a bit pissed I didn't win. I was like, oh, I was have been the one for him, but I guess Amoy was faster. But yeah, for sure, Greg impressive again. But yeah, I think he pissed off a lot of guys that Greg was third again. Bernard was not happy. Bernard did a good race, but he was like, Greg beat me. Yeah, it's of course like pissing a lot of people off.
It's quite cool what you said as well with like his style is it's old school with bits of new school in there that he learns to add in off other people, I guess, because as he says, he's always watching the youngsters and making sure he tops himself up. And then you compare that to Finn, who's like super talented new school style, and then at the bottom they're separated by point fuck all. And it's like it's so cool to see that someone who's 40 can race someone who's, and I know he's an exception to the rule, but it is proper cool. I love seeing him do well. Him and Gwynny, like last two races to see.
Yeah, I was stoked for Greeny as well.
Sick.
Yeah. So on to Andorra then. What were you when you track walked it? What were your thoughts on the track?
I thought it was long, and then everyone was like, "Nah, trust me, it's not because it's so fast." And then you do your first practice run, and you're like, yeah, it's quite long because you've stopped twice, you don't know where you are. And then I did my first full run on my third run, and I was like, shit, that's not long at all. Like, because it's so fast and the top's so straightforward, you're just like down before you knew it. So it was just basically a sprint, no room for error. And as Emmy said, you had like intensity points on the track where the whole track was risky, but then you had little sections where if you were willing to risk it, like we saw the speed, like, was Loic the first one we saw who went through those rocks just so fast, and it was like, holy fuck, like little sections like that where you could literally eat seconds out of people, or in my case lose them. But
You're starting doing my gags now.
There you go.
No, but like I knew a little bit how it was gonna look from like we looked a lot of video for the Catalan Cup that was there, and I mean, it looked like for me when I walked the track, I had a little bit of FOMO. I was like, oh, I wished like I could at least like run the first day before it's completely destroyed and like do like the top section would look so meant to ride, like so fun. But obviously after a few runs, it deteriorates quite fast. But yeah, like I'm not really good in the dust, so I guess I would have not been the greatest run of all time, but it was for sure. It looked fun to ride for sure. Yeah.
In the women's, Valley finally put one together, and what a run it was. It was always going to click at some point, though, wasn't it? And
yeah, obviously, like she's trying harder. She always said like she's gonna send it whatever, and if it all clicks and everything goes well, then she's not gonna like get that crash. And you could see maybe she was like, because the track was so slippery, maybe pushing a little bit less than in Fort William, for example, where you could literally see like her sliding every corner and it's gonna give way at some point. But yeah, the track was way shorter, so maybe that's also an aspect for her.
Yeah.
The longer the track gets, the harder it is for her at the end to just like keep it together. And yeah, I guess Miriam, I don't know if you know that, George, but she had like stomach bug, so she was like very ill the whole week.
Yeah.
And I've seen her on track and she was like looking at me like, oh my god, like I'm barely hanging on. And
I think in commentary they said she was in hospital on the on the Monday.
Yeah, she had to get like an IV or something because she's just like completely down. So I guess good explanation for why she just like gave it away in finals, because obviously at the end of the run she's just like too tired to like hang on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cami continued her run of quali wins, but she looked a bit tight in a race run. Is that?
Yeah, that was a hard weekend for Cam. Like after the first day of practice, like after time training, she's literally almost crying in my arms. Like, my God, like I'm so far back. She was like 7 seconds back on Nina at time training with
Right.
the run she would normally put down.
Yeah.
And she was like, "I'm never gonna catch it, blah blah. I hate the track, like it's too dangerous. I'm so scared, and blah blah." And then for some reason, in quali, she won quali, and I was like, "What the hell? Like, how did she even do that?" I was like, she was like getting third on the board, and I was like, "Oh, third is so sick." And then suddenly she was like already on the finish line, won almost like 3 seconds in the last bit, which was 25 seconds or something. And I was just like, "What the hell just happened?" So everyone thought it would be normal, like a normal weekend for her, but it wasn't. It was like really, really hard for her. And then I think she was really happy with like how it went, like point wise, but obviously she knew that she had to like risk more than usually on this track. And that's where the mistakes came from, I think, because she tried like to like push really hard, and then she got off track, and then she wanted to catch up, and then at the end she trying to catch up, she almost crashed 2 times, and she was like, "Okay, now I need to chill."
Yeah.
So she stayed on the bike, which is like the main thing. And I think second place would have been optimal, but because she was only 0.1 off Nina. But I think it would have been like hard to get Valley on this day on a track she doesn't feel comfortable on.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Valley's riding with that freedom now, isn't she? Really, a little bit, but because she's not chasing the overall really. Well, or
Yeah,
is
no,
she?
she's not. No, I don't think she is, but she could.
Yeah.
We've seen that in the past. So someone that's not chasing the overall can certainly win the overall,
Yeah, 100%. So Cammie's extended a lead to 180 points. She's on 1,085. Miriam's in second on 905, and then Valley in third on 811. Valley's winning Val Nord means it's a 3-horse race now, I'd say. Jack, who do you think's the favourite? Cammie with the points and the consistency, Miriam with the experience and the raw pace, or Valley with the similar pace and less expectation, but the least points?
Yeah, I mean, statistically, I think I'd have to go for Cam just because she's more consistent. I can see her just being on that podium the next 3 races, maybe a win in there. Whereas the other two, stats kind of suggest that, yeah, they might both win one each, but they might also be out the points in one of them. So, but as Emmy says, anything can happen.
Cool. On to the men's race then. A lot of crashes. Remy Mayer-Smith's looked the worst, and Finn nearly did the same in his race run, going off the side of the ramp at the end. Were you pretty unhappy with those sections of track, Emmy?
Well, from what I've heard, and Cam talked a lot with like Andreas Cole, who raced the Catalan Cup. He gave a very specific feedback to the track builders after the Catalan Cup, saying, "This is not working. The bridge are not safe. Try to like do this better," and it did nothing from all the points that he like pointed out. So obviously after that, you're like, well, this is not the way it should be. Like, I think every rider can say like there is supposed to be like a UCI rule that you're not allowed to like put any bridges with a 90-degree turn on them. Like, it's not something that is safe, especially bridges with like rubber mats on them when it's 35 degrees. And yeah, like it's a bit of shame, like that finish drop. It's just like, first of all, not nice for riders to ride, and second of all, it looks like shit and it's unsafe. So there's only negatives, to be honest.
Yeah.
And like, it's never the first time people like just bring a pile of dirt and like do dirt lighting or a wall ride or something else than just landing on a rubber mat with like another mat on the side that's not really fixed properly and people go over the bars onto concrete. Like, it's just not something that should happen, in my opinion. But sounds harsh, but I think it really needs to change.
No, you did right. And when I came through in my quali, the rider in front had crashed on that drop. And when I came off the drop, I landed exactly where I planned to land. But the rider that had crashed had hit the pad and pulled the pad away from the side. So when I landed, my left foot and pedal smashed into the pad, almost pulled me off my bike, managed to get away with it. But I then pulled the pad even further into the track. So then the rider after me, I think it was Fishy, he nailed into it as well. And that could have been 2 riders injured who no fault of their own. Like, we weren't offline. It was just because it's a dangerous section of track. And yeah, as Emmy says, this is what people need to understand. It's dangerous enough for us riders. You don't need shoddy track maintenance and shoddy trail building and organisation making it worse. So,
from a TV perspective, it looked great. It looked like it was a great spectacle of a race. But tell us a bit about. I've heard the pits were like 4 kilometres away or something. Is that right?
The pits were where they always were, at the top of the old chairlift, which is the top of the old track.
Yeah.
But this new track was on a different hill, so you had to go down and up. So there was no way to ride there. So you either had to use your own team shuttle or you had to use the shuttle that was provided. But again, that didn't run particularly well. We found ourselves waiting for that quite a few times. Even going for quali, we were having to say, where's the driver? We were loaded up on this pickup and there was no fucking driver. And it took 15 minutes to find a driver to take us back over. So, yeah, I mean, there's been worse things, but at the same time, it's a World Cup. Like, yeah, it wasn't ideal.
Yeah, there's like a lot of stuff, like the riders' warm-up area at the top, a low platform, like in the shade. There's no shade, there's no trees, there's no nothing. So there's a low Red Bull tent that doesn't barely have any shade. Yeah. And then there's like a platform that's not flat. So you want to kind of use it for your roller to fall off the roller all the time when you try to do sprints. And then they didn't close the riders area either. So for the men elite, maybe there's less people that prefer the woman elite. When everybody tried to like walk down the track, they come and like in your face, literally in your face, touching your stuff. Like, I've never seen that before. Yeah, I had to take the all mate off. He was just like lifting like Dorval's front wheel from the trainer bike and try to like look at it. And I was just like, maybe you shouldn't touch this stuff. And they're walking through the like water pits and like riders like warm-up area and stuff. And I was just like, what is this? Like, and then for the big, like for the men, they realized and they closed it off. But like, I mean, that shouldn't be a thing. First of all, it should be way bigger. Imagine like side winds, side rain with lots of wind up there with one tent that doesn't have walls, anything. Like, it would have been like a disaster.
And you could only get about 10 riders under that tent, probably.
Hey, not even.
Max. Yeah. So,
so I mean, they were lucky this time, but definitely some stuff to improve logistic-wise, for sure.
So you mentioned Amory's crash already, Jack. He nearly ended his season there. I don't know about you two, but for me, him getting up and racing again really reminded me of 2019. Do you remember when he crashed in Mont Sainte-Anne? He was leading the overall and he got up and he had that brutal crash in the rock garden and he still got up and raced. Is this the kind of race, is that where titles are won, by getting that 13th rather than not riding?
Could be, couldn't it? Have to do a points count at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think it was impressive.
It sends a message as well, doesn't it, to everybody else? If you want this, you're going to have to go further than I would to get it, you know.
I think there were two things that show how strong those top boys are as well. Two things happened at the weekend that really highlight it. One was him getting up after that crash and still racing to 13th when he literally stopped dead from like, 20 odd mile an hour. Yeah. The second was how the hell Finn didn't go over the handlebars.
Yeah.
That is strength. He was offline, front wheel was trying to wash, all his weight was on the bars, feet were out of the pedals, and he rode the stem round a berm through rocks. Like, that just shows how hard these boys are working. Like, fair play.
Yeah. That's impressive to watch. He was like, I'm not going down. This is not happening. That was really impressive.
Yeah. So it was a perfect weekend for Loris Vergier. He looked to have banished a few demons with that run, didn't he?
Yeah, it was impressive to watch him practice as well. We're all talking about that stump gap, George, where people and it was a little bit of a mare, to be honest, at the beginning, some stumps were uncut on the side and people catching pedals and go over the bars. And Loris was literally probably the first top guy, I would say, to hit it.
Yeah.
There was Ronan Dunn and some other person that's have the balls to hit it, so to say. But he was the first one to just hit it from the top 5. And I was ooh, that means something. And did as well quite early. And then they cut all the stumps on the sides and then more people trying to do it. But yeah, it's commitment and it shows how Loris is confident at the moment. for sure.
But Loic, he's broken collarbone 7 weeks before or whatever, sending that into there. Like,
Yeah.
what can you say? Like, I thought he'd be taking it easy a bit until Worlds, but there's no sign of that whatsoever, is there?
I think that's why he didn't come back early, isn't it? Like, I remember asking him at Leogang, I said, I'm surprised you're not racing, because I've had a collarbone plated before, and even though it's not strong, once you've had it plated, it feels fine. And he didn't come back early because he knows that when he's back racing, he's fucking racing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you've mentioned Finn already, and that save, which was incredible. He had a fantastic run, really. He's had 2 second places now, a third and a fourth this season, and obviously he missed one round with the concussion. It's good to see him finally delivering, isn't it, on the potential?
Absolutely.
I'm a big fan, as you can tell, probably from everything I said before already. No, but I think he's just like such a nice guy as well. Like, he's just like down to earth and just like, I just really approachable, and like his aggression on the bike is just really nice to watch. And in the past, it probably didn't serve him. Like, he had a lot of crashes and like, but I guess now he's just kind of like trying to find this thin line. And he was saying to me, he was like, about Amory's crash. We talked about Amory's crash after the race, and he was like, probably he thought he was God or something. And then he was like, yeah, it happens to me sometimes. And I'm like, maybe I should try this gap. And then like he said, no, just like get that out of your head and just like ride how you're supposed to. And I think this little voice in his head trying to calm him down is like really helping him to get the results.
Yeah, 100%. Aaron Gwynn back on a podium. He's done it in all condition, but that's probably about as close as we'll ever get to SoCal on a World Cup race, isn't it?
Yeah, I've never been, but yeah, from the videos.
Do you think he's going to sustain this now? I mean, Mont Sainte-Anne he had a famous victory there.
I'd love to see it. Like, it's funny, like, because obviously Dan's riding for our team and he's 20 and he's not been around the sport that long, and like he missed like the Gwynny years, and we were already driving back from Andorra when the finals happened, so we had it on in the van, and I said to Dan when Gwyn was in the gate, I said, strap yourself in. And he went, what? I was like, you just wait. And then the first split come up, or whichever split came up when he was 1 point something up, and Dan went, what? I was like, trust me, mate, this boy is so fast in these conditions. And yeah, it's meant to see him back. So going to Mont Sainte-Anne, we've all seen what he's done there before. And Val d'Isole, we've all seen what he's done there before. What, 8 second win however many years ago?
Yeah.
So it's exciting, and we're good to see him back mixing it with the young guns.
Yeah, it's mega. Yeah, it's really mega to see. Last rider I wanted to talk about was Andreas Cole. He's on a roll. Since he broke his elbow, he's podiumed in Leogang, won European Championships, 4th in Lenzerheide, and then 5th in Andorra. He's made the jump, hasn't he, up to that podium contender level. Do you think that's something he'll be able to sustain like Benoit's done, or do you think he might fade away now?
I don't know. Like, I feel like, well, I've spent quite a lot of time with Andy because obviously he's also on Continental, and I feel like, especially in Andorra, I don't think he really liked the track as much. Like, he was just a bit scared, I think, of the speed. And talking to him on the side of the track, he was like, oh my God, like, and you could see him on his riding, but him still getting a top 5 with like, it's like same as Cam, like, when you don't like the track, it's like shows how on form you are, and it gives you confidence as well for the track that you like. So if like he doesn't have a big crash or something or a mechanical, I think he will still like be in the top 10 all the time from now on.
Yeah, so it reminds me a bit of David Trummer a couple of years ago when he...
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah,
he's definitely arrived.
There is one more rider I want to talk about. Let's talk a bit about Thibaut de Prella. When bands have a huge hit with the first album, the second album is often described as being the difficult second album. We saw the same thing happen with Matt Walker last season. Do you think he's trying to rein it in a bit to cut out the crashes, but just taking too much off?
A great metaphor. Well, Cam was telling me how like he was struggling like mentally. to find after his crash and after what happened also in the overall last year. And he's struggling for sure, but it just need one run where everything clicks and then we'll be back. So I wouldn't write it off just quite yet, but definitely struggling a lot mentally, and we'll see what happens. But I think Snowshoe is not really in his nicest memories, so we'll see how he does there. Yeah.
So
I think you could compare him to Finn, because obviously he came out of junior, everybody expecting these fireworks, and it's hard. Like we're going to see the same with Jackson and Jordan next year. Like it's really difficult. There's like so many guys now who can get those top 10, top 5 results, and when that expectation's on your shoulders and it's not working, as Emi says, it's going to affect you mentally, and you can see that in his riding. So I think it'll just take a little bit of time, and however many seasons it does take, I think it will click for him like it's doing with Finn now, but he might just need a little bit of time to just figure it all out.
So last year I backed Valley all the way until Snowshoe, and then I was like, no, it isn't going to happen. This year I've backed Tebow all the way until now. Tebow,
get your money off him.
I'm not backing you anymore. I'm doing it for you.
No, hopefully, oh damn! Don't bet on anybody in the team or anyone I coach. Put it on Bernard. No, I'm kidding.
Hopefully that's the monkey off Tebow's back there, and he can pull it out of the bag in Snowshoe. So the standings with 3 rounds to go. Amory's still well clear on 930. Finn's in second on 666. Loris is now third with 655. Matt Walker's in fourth with 564, and Danny and Benoit are tied for fifth on 515. If you were in Amory's position now, Jack, with 3 races to go, how would you play it?
I mean, he's got to play it smart, and because it's just there for him to have. But he's also got to not overthink it, because he'd be a bit annoyed if he just gave it away by just not going fast enough. So he knows he's got the pace, doesn't he? So
does he just need 3 top 10 finishes? Will that do it, do you reckon?
I don't know. I'm not a numbers guy like that. It'd take me weeks to work that out. But
is it about basically for a top 10?
He's got to go in, follow his process, but also avoid being a dickhead like he was on Sunday morning. Like, you don't need to do that shit. Like, he knows it's fast enough. So just ride your lines, ride your bike, follow your process, listen to your people, do your thing. Whereas if he goes trying to light the world up, then he might end up fucking it.
Yeah, if he podiums, I'm pretty sure if he podiumed at every round, that would be it.
I think top 10 could do it depending who's winning. If Finn wins every round, maybe not, but I doubt that will happen. So if someone like Loic starts winning, he'll play in his in Amory's favor.
Yeah. So you mentioned the junior men before, Jackson and Jordan. Tell me a bit about this fastest time of the weekend from Jackson. Did the track deteriorate that much?
I think Emi's the best person to answer that one.
Yeah.
Track side.
Yeah. Like, definitely. Well, even I went up with Jenna, so the junior women's, and we looked at the track from the lift, and she was like, "Oh yeah, on that last turn, maybe I should take inside." And we're like, "Oh yeah. The one in the open just before you get onto the bridge." And then I went up with Cam for her last practice run, and I was like, "Oh, the inside's gone." It's not even an hour. Yeah. So I think Jackson was looking amazing on track, probably level of all the elites. But I think there was more wind for the elites, 100%. There's already a difference of wind between the women's. Cam, you could literally see the tape flattering when Cam was riding, and you cannot see that when Valley was on track. And that could also explain a little bit the 1.6 at the top, because she was just I'm standing still on that first straight. So that was a big aspect. But obviously, the track theory is the wind at the top. And then obviously, he would have been close. But I think 3 seconds is a little bit of a push for onto someone like Loris.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I think for me is the track can only have changed so much. So yeah, it will have deteriorated, because it was a dry, blown out track that then had all those wheels down it from when the juniors raced at 9 a.m. or whatever time.
Yeah.
So it will have changed, but it can only have changed so much. It was still the same track, so those boys would have still had top tens.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think maybe better even.
Exactly. So you can't take anything away from them, but also like they're going to get their chance to race against the elites very soon. And yeah, I mean, Jackson had looked amazing all weekend, and that gap he did off that last bridge is just fucking stupid, like unbelievable. I don't know if everyone saw that on his YouTube course.
Yeah, I've seen.
The maddest thing I've seen today, I would say. Like, you'd come onto the bridge, brake, and then roll down and catch your landing, and he was not braking, jumping off it and get. I don't know if he raced that line, but it was mad. Whereas I know that Jordan had kind of, I don't know if struggled with the track is the word, but he'd certainly kind of. His dad wasn't feeling like Jordan was anywhere going to win, basically, or even struggle to get the podium. So then when we saw his time in the morning, we were like, wow, he'd really leveled up to do that time. Yeah. So that was a big achievement for him for sure. But it's exciting racing, and it's going to be interesting to see what those boys can do next year. Because like we just said, they're getting podium/top 10 pace quite a lot.
Yeah.
And if they just jump in and do that next year, they're going to ruffle some feathers.
Yeah. So in junior women, you picked Gracie Hemstreet at the start of the season, Emmy. She's taken 3 wins from 5, just like Amory, although Phoebe Gale took the win in Andorra. What did you see in her that made you think?
I think she's just like, I would say Phoebe Gale is like the better racer in the sense of like preparation and like racing strategy with like, also Chris Kilmurray that coaches her, gives a lot of knowledge, but Gracie is more, I feel like the bike handling and the way she just like controls the bike also in the air and like tables basically almost every finish jump that there is. I don't know if you saw in Lenzerheide, she's like tabled the last drop, and I was like, what the hell? Like even the guys don't do that. It's just like, it's really impressive like how she like has fun on the bike, and I think for a junior it's like almost probably the most important thing. If you enjoy your race run, you're going to be fast. And I don't know, like Gracie's Canadian, so Mont Sainte-Anne, she'll be like extra motivated, but I think Phoebe is like coming strong now, and if she like starts to get more consistent, she'll be hard to beat for the overall. So it's going to be tight, and see what Jenna is going to do.
Yeah, well, that was my next question. She's in third. She a first year junior?
No, she's not. But she's didn't race overseas before. She's never been overseas before.
Yeah.
So she did all the like Crankworks Summer Series in New Zealand, and performed there, like in the elite as well. Won the downhill and stuff in front of like pretty big names.
Yeah.
But obviously started with a 6th and a 5th, and then like she's on a roll for podiums now because she's doing all her learning about European tracks and stuff. So yeah, I would say she's a bit less serious than the other two, like in her approach yet, but I don't think it's a problem because that's like a first World Cup experience. It needs to be that way. Like you need to be relaxed and enjoy what you're doing, and then you can take it more seriously when. But these girls are all doing like almost top 10 women. I checked it. Like Phoebe would have been like 5th or 6th. And like it's pretty cool to see that they will have qualified almost have all the rounds, first 3 juniors, and not forget Isabella, because Isabella is world champion, and she's gonna fight for that title. I'm pretty sure, as well.
It's gonna be cool. Right, that's it for part 1. We'll be back with Luca Shaw after these messages. Luca Shaw, we chatted briefly in Fort William, but welcome properly to the Making Up the Numbers podcast. How you doing?
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm doing good. I'm home, resting up my broken wrist, but yeah, all good.
And whereabouts is home?
North Carolina, so like Brevard, North Carolina, Western North Carolina. So haven't been home for 2.5 months, so pretty nice to just lay low for a little bit.
Yeah, excellent.
Right, Lucas, so you haven't done a podcast for a while, so we'll go back a little bit. 2014, you're a second-year junior, and you won round 1 in Pietermaritzburg. How did it feel to be winning the World Cups as a junior?
Man, yeah, you're going way back. 2014. Obviously it was great. It's nice to start the season strong, and I'd only gotten one podium my previous year. It was obviously my first year junior. So I definitely was looking to, be on the podium a lot more, but then to come out and win the first race, I was obviously super, super excited. So, and yeah, that set the tone for a really exciting and good year, good battle with Loris all year down to the wire. So, but yeah, that seems like so long ago now.
Sure.
Good memories though. Awesome memories. I missed going to that race. Actually, that track was different, like not my favorite track, but a cool experience altogether. A lot different than all the other World Cups.
That was the one where everyone was running dropper posts, wasn't it? Pia Maritzburg.
A lot of people did. Yeah. I never did, but there was, I guess maybe Jack, you'd probably know, like the first few years there, it was even worse, right? The flat bit, because there was no jumps. So people would put the dropper on.
Oh,
but
yeah.
we always had jumps
Horrible.
to keep the speed going. I actually really liked it. It's kind of like BMX background for me. So kind of suited me.
Yeah, first time I went there was in 12, and they didn't have any jumps. And I think if I remember right, Emmy, you'll know this. I think did they put the jumps in for Worlds in 13? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second year. Mm-hmm.
When I went back in 14, it was a lot nicer. But yeah, 12, I was still at uni, and I did not have the fitness for that pedal. I remember it well. So skipping through that year then, you had a great season, third in Leogang, won Mont Sainte-Anne, second in Wyndham, and then fifth in Maribel, and finished the year second overall behind Loris, like you said. Also in junior that year were Omri Piron, Reese Wilson, Laurie Greenland, and Thomas Stack. Hell of a class to be a part of. That's a really competitive year.
Yeah, and also Kolb.
Andy.
Andreas. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. When I look at the results sheet now and I see all the 1996 names, it's pretty crazy. So yeah, I mean, that definitely shaped it for me, because having that competition from the beginning, and it's pretty, like, honestly, I'm pretty proud, like, of our class, our junior class, like now seeing
love it.
Like how far we've come is pretty damn cool, actually. So yeah, we definitely had some stiff competition in the junior ranks.
George, that's one for your stats guy. Has there been an elite men's podium with just 96 guys on there? You won't be far off those guys.
That would be, I doubt it though.
I don't
It'd be hard. It'd be hard,
but
yeah,
it could happen for sure.
It's weird for me, because I was just getting into kind of downhill around that time, and I always think Loris was the man, wasn't he? In junior, coming up, he was like when we had Emilie on the pod, he was like, yeah, Loris was the man.
Yeah, Loris was.
I've always known him being on the team with he was on the team with Bruni when they first started, so I've always known him, Bruni, being the man, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But
Loris was fast. I mean, he's always been fast. And he was, at least my second year junior, I was sort of chasing him all year. I got 2 wins that year, and I don't know, he must have won 3 or maybe even 4, but yeah. And then he won Worlds as well. So yeah, he's been a pain in my ass for a long time now.
Still is.
Still is. Yeah.
It's funny, like, there's no way of knowing, but listing off those names, obviously Reese has been world champion, Omri's won the overall, Laurie, you've had lots of success. Back then, obviously, Loris had Bruni, and Bruni had that experience with Sam when Bruni was a junior. So
yeah, we
all know how helpful he was to Loris, and there's no way of knowing, but I wonder how influential that was on Loris's future success, having that guidance.
For sure. Yeah.
It must be. So 2015 and 16, you rode for SRAM, Trolley Designs, and had a couple of really good years. So
those guys, like SRAM, basically took me under my wing from the start. And they were like my family, like for those 4 years. And it was a really cool kind of introduction to the World Cup scene through them, because obviously I was always in the SRAM pit, and it's quite a social place, and it wasn't like I was just with my little team bubble and that was it. Like there was so many riders and other teams like always kind of in and out of the pit and stuff. So got to meet a lot of people that way too. And those guys definitely, it was cool because like as a junior, they would obviously help me if I needed, but I didn't have a mechanic or anything. And I was kind of having to take care of myself quite a lot. So I kind of learned a lot as far as, working on my own bike and just making sure I was organized so they didn't have to worry about me. So, yeah. And then my first 2 years in pro, I eventually had a mechanic, JT, who's with the Valley Holes team now. He was taking care of me the last year, but no, it was awesome times traveling with those guys. And we had a lot of fun, that's for sure.
Yeah, my memories of you from back then were constantly seeing you in there and thinking, why is that guy not on one of the big teams? And then like not long after, obviously, off
Yeah.
So 2015, you were 11th at the first World Cup in Lords and 10th at the next one in Fort William. Skipping on to 2016, 6th at Fort William, 7th at Lenzide. As a junior, had you been comparing your times to the elites? Did you then go into elite and do the things you'd planned? How did it measure up?
Yeah, I mean, definitely from my first race as a junior, more out of curiosity than anything, but always comparing the times. Like there was not a single race where I didn't like, okay, what place? It was like the race in junior, but then it was like watch the finals and be like, okay, where would I have slotted in? So yeah, constantly comparing my times. And I knew like we've all seen it, like fast juniors when they go to pro the next year, it's like kind of sink or swim. And I knew it was a crucial year and I needed to, improve a lot if I still wanted to get the results that I was kind of searching for. So yeah, that first race at Lord, I definitely surprised myself by getting 11th. And that actually set me up so well for really my next few years. Because from that point on, I was a protected rider. So that was huge for me because I went to Fort William already protected. Like I did not expect that at all. Yeah. And then I was able to not stress so much about qualifying and actually try and like have a really good qualifying run. And that kind of helped bring my confidence up. And it kind of rolled from there. So yeah, my second race already, I was 10th and then didn't quite get back into the top 10 that year. But just from then on, pretty much, there's been like 2 races in my career that I wasn't protected. So I think that's something.
Lucky guy.
Yeah, I feel for you, Jack. I really do. I wouldn't want that stress at every race. Yeah. But I think that was unexpected, but really like a super like helpful thing for me just to instantly be kind of in the protected top 20 guys and kind of was able to worry more about the race and not worry so much about just getting through and then having to deal with that. So those 2 years rolled pretty. I mean, I definitely obviously there was Loris, of course, who got podium in his first year pro. I remember at Wyndham, and I just remember watching and being a little bit pissed off. But the next year I was able to get on the podium, so I was pretty proud of that.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, moving on to like Jack mentioned it shortly to 2017, the big move for you to the Syndicate Syndicate. Tell us a bit about how that came about, and I guess you must have been pretty excited about that.
For sure, yeah. I had a great season in 2016, podium and a bunch of top 10s, and I had like quite a few teams kind of asking me what my plans were, and I was in pretty serious chats with a few of them. And but in the end, like as soon as I had that Santa Cruz like syndicate offer, it was kind of like in my heart, I knew that's what I wanted to do. Obviously being like such a big fan of the sport for so long, and PD and Greg and Rat, like it was just coming off Rat's, insane run of form. So I felt like it was an opportunity that maybe wouldn't come knocking again. So I jumped on it. That it was kind of a cool moment to see my name in that kind of syndicate. To be one of the syndicate riders, there's not been that many. So I was super proud of that and really excited. And it was the start of a lot of really great years with them. So,
tell us a bit about being on the team with Greg. You mentioned him, because I guess you kind of like his prodigy, or you like he was like obviously way older than he still is. Like, how was it to be with Greg on the team?
It was good. Like, especially at the beginning, it was really good. I was obviously like, I was just a fan, and I didn't really like measure myself to him. And the first like 2 years, like with Loris, obviously, then is Loris and I again. It was Loris and I and Greg. So we were sort of the young puppies. Like in that first year, he was on fire too. He almost won the overall. And we were kind of just like shooting for podiums. I don't think I even got a podium that year. I don't remember, but so the team dynamic was really cool, and I liked it. But as we got faster, I feel like the dynamic switched a little bit. Greg is like really, really competitive, as we all are. And it's tough being teammates with someone who you want to beat so bad. So, and that was kind of interesting dynamic for a bit, but no, I obviously learned so much from Greg and especially Petey as well, because he was kind of team manager, team coach role all my years there, and he still is. So no, it was a really good learning opportunity, and yeah, many good memories as well. We definitely had fun. So
yeah, it seemed like it. Well, I mean, it started really well. Like you were in 2018, you like second in Croatia at 1-1, and then you had like all this amazing runs, like especially qualifying runs. We kind of like try to debate with like George and Jack, trying to make it like not sound negative, but obviously in this season you're like battling to like convert one of this amazing qualifying run into a final run, and from the result, I mean, George put the result in the script, and it's like 59th, 42nd, and 35th after being first, and we're like, well, that sounds a bit shit, but I guess it's the reality, and like I guess it must have not be easy to like being in such, like you have the pace, but kind of like. So how did you feel like about all this whole thing, this whole situation?
Yeah, it was a cool, it was hard to deal with, but it was really, really good for me to go through that. I think like that year I started off like I was riding like super well, and I was kind of just surprising myself. Like first race I was second to Gwini in Croatia, and like really less than a second like from the win, and I was totally kind of surprised. Like I didn't like expect that. And then like Fort William qualified first with just like a smooth run, and again I was really surprised, obviously super stoked. But then I got a flat, so that ruined that for me. Like I wouldn't say is my fault so much. Like I was first at the first split, and then I got a flat, and I actually still like my qualifying time was faster than the race time. So I knew that I could have done it. Like I kind of, obviously I didn't get the joy of the victory, but I was obviously gutted, but I knew that I could have done it. And that was already quite a big thing for me, is like kind of prove to myself, like, okay, I can win one of these things, which, had never been in my mind before. And then Leo Gang the next weekend, totally different track, totally different conditions, everything, qualified first again. And I remember being like pretty surprised at that one, because I didn't really feel that good in practice. But it was just, things were rolling for me. And then I was on a really good run in finals and was up at the last, or next to last split, whatever, close to the last split, and had just one of the like strangest crashes I've ever had. Like didn't really feel like I was riding over my head or anything. And I didn't feel nervous or anything like that. Just had a really weird crash. And I remember being pretty confused by it and not really feeling like it was one of those that I need to like learn so much from. Is kind of one of those that it happens. Like I didn't feel like I was riding tight and nervous or riding over my head or anything like this. So that obviously sucked, but another like crazy weekend, because I was kind of right at the top again. I was, and Amari won both of those, but I was definitely on the pace. And then fast forward later that year in Andorra when I qualified first for the third time. That time, like I was fully a wreck, like in my head. I knew that I was like, okay, like
Yeah.
I should really try. I should win one of these now. Like I've obviously been in the position to and not put it together. And I definitely put way too much pressure on myself. And I remember riding down that run and like I was so tight and so nervous and not flowing, not letting the track come to me. It was bad. Like I wasn't even on a very good run, and then I crashed at the bottom. So that was terrible. That one was the one that I kind of have the worst memories from. The other two, I kind of felt like I handled the pressure really well. I didn't feel like it was in my head at all. But that third one, I remember because everyone was like, "Oh, this is it. He's going to finally do it." And yeah, that one went up in flames. So
that's really interesting to hear, because the next question I was going to ask was about whether it was the pressure, because on the rounds in between when you didn't qualify fastest, so in Val di Sole round 4 you qualified 5th and you finished 4th, and then Mont Sainte-Anne you qualified 4th and you finished 6th. So it's almost like that from looking at the stats, it was like being last man down the hill. It's just too much pressure, but obviously not.
No, I mean, in Andorra, for sure. Like it was on my mind and it was in my head. And I was like, okay, I'm going to win this race. I just can't make a mistake. Like that was my mentality. And that's not the mentality to have at all. So, but no, and I actually remember Val di Sole that year, I had a huge mistake at the top, like almost crashed, blew my feet off. Like, so I wasn't very happy with my run at all. And I brought back a lot of time. And I remember thinking like, dang, that was another one that kind of feel like I may have had the pace to win there. So yeah, that was a kind of a crazy year because I was sort of just rolling and I was riding good and riding confident, but like I didn't expect any of it. So it was cool. It was definitely it's definitely better than being off the pace and crashing.
Yeah. It's crazy how we see in this sport how riders get on a roll and they just can't really put the finger on why they're on the roll, but once they're on it, they just keep going, and we see it so many times. People winning back to backs, and threes, and
I mean those exact same races that was Amari's first win in Fort William.
Yeah,
and look what he did since then. You know, like it's crazy. Like he went on to win 3 in a row, and then won the championship that year. And ever since then, when he's healthy, he's the guy to beat almost. You know. So that definitely was a big year for him.
Would you say that, as you described, you weren't expecting to qualify first? So then going into finals because of that, did you almost struggle to, because we all know how smooth you are. Like Emmy will agree from trackside, when you come past, it just looks like you're not trying, and it's like, so if you then go into finals off a first qualifier that you weren't expecting, were you then changing the perspective in your mind and riding differently?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I mean, I think the best like races, you know, I've ever had is when I'm sort of not thinking about anything and it just comes, you're in a flow and it's not like nothing's forced. And I feel like for whatever reason, especially that year, it was a lot easier for me to do that in qualifying. Is like no pressure really, it just kind of didn't seem like it mattered. So it was easy to perform. And obviously I feel like I've gotten better at that. But I'm constantly learning. Like this year again has been a bit annoying because I've had some crashes and race run, and so it's such I mean, that's where this sport is so tough, is like it's such a fine line, and you have to go for it, and you have to have the confidence to go for it. And it's so easy to just be a little bit off pace. And that's almost like, to me, that's the worst. Like I as much as I hate crashing and it hurts and it sucks, like coming down and knowing that you didn't really push it as hard as you could and being like off the pace is definitely a worse feeling for me. So, in the end of the day, you gotta take some risks and you gotta go for it. I think I still need to fine tune that, but it's part of why we love it. It's so hard to do it right. So
Yeah, the
back.
reason I asked you that was because I kind of, like I've said before to people, I kind of tripped and fell into this. So whenever I've had a good qualifying, I've felt so out of place at the top.
Yeah.
Like I remember Val di Sole in 2011 when I qualified 12th, and I was standing there with Greg and everyone else, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like I was still at uni, and I just blew up on the track because I went into it feeling like I had to do something different to what I'd done throughout the entire weekend. And I didn't have anybody there. It was just me and the old man. So I didn't have anybody there to tell me, like I did with Dan last year in Maribor, don't change anything.
Yeah.
That time's there for a reason. Just go and do that again. And the reason I asked you that question is hearing what you and George both said, like, Omri and whoever else we listed were almost lucky that moment of brilliance came in the finals run, not the quali run, because you did it in the quali run and then I had to go through what I went through. And fuck, I've now got to back that shit up.
Yeah.
Whereas they just came down and were like, fuck, I've won. And then that's it. They're on the wave then.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, you just need to go and do it in a finals run, dude, and you will be away.
Yeah. All right,
that's the one. Qualified further back and then just take them down.
Yeah. I like one thing I've noticed that's hard to kind of deal with mentally that I still struggle a little bit with is when you have a really good qualifying run and you kind of nail everything. It feels effortless. You feel like you're riding good, nail all your lines. It's like you don't feel like you've left much room for improvement. And that's really tough when everyone's going to go 5-6 seconds quicker the next day. And in the back of your mind, you're like, oof, can I do that? Like, that was pretty good what I just did. Yeah. And that's like kind of like a battle that you have in your head,
It's so hard, isn't it?
But yeah, I think at the end of the day, like, it's like the less you can think, the better off you'll be. Like, it's like, just take this brain out and just ride. Like, I feel like for me, at least, that's something I constantly have to try and remind myself, especially when you're getting in the gate. It's like, right, like, forget all that, just ride. So, but yeah, easier said than done for sure.
Yeah, sure. No, it's really interesting hearing you talk about that. Georgia, I'm lost on the script. Is that still you?
Yeah, no, I can do the next one. What I wanted to ask about was like the move to the syndicate was like massive. With hindsight, do you think it might have happened a bit early? Like, if it happened now, do you think it might have been a bit different as a bit older or not?
So hard. I mean, so hard to say. Like I said, when I got that opportunity, like it feels like one of those that you might never get again. So you kind of just gotta take it while it's there. And it's, I don't know. I feel like it was really good for me because I kind of had to. Well, I don't know. It's really hard to say because that was the first team that I was on.
Yeah, what I was trying to ask was like you said before, there's only been so many riders on the syndicate, and I think Jack said before, if you're outside of France, it's the biggest team in the world. It's the team everybody wants to ride for. Did that add to the pressure of I've got to do well?
No, I wouldn't say so. Honestly, like riding for the syndicate, I felt like there was like zero pressure. Like it was very, very fun. It was always like they wanted you to like almost to its own like detriment in ways. I felt like, especially now being on Canyon and having like Fabian Burrell, he's telling you the stuff you don't want to hear, but you need to hear. And I almost feel like I could have used that in my younger years. I sound old when I say that, but no, like there was no pressure. Like obviously the results and the pressure always comes from, within. Like no one's putting pressure on me more than myself. Like I want to do well and I want to, do the best I can. So I'm always going to, strive for more. But no, I didn't feel like there was much pressure coming from the team. Maybe it was like you kind of felt like you had to live up to the expectations of the previous generation or the previous riders on the team. But not really. No, I felt like it was a good environment and fun environment which kind of brought out like the best in a lot of people. So
you just mentioned being on Canyon, and I mean, it's a new team, and as an outsider looking in, you've just mentioned the big personalities that the syndicate kind of has. I don't know you that well. We've met twice now, I think, but you seem as to be more of a let my results do the talking rather than being a big media guy. Canyon seems like a better fit. Tell us a bit about life on the new team.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's more about, you know, the racing. That's the whole mission of the team, is like, let's try and win the race. We're focused on the racing. Where the syndicate was for sure obviously focused on the racing, but also very focused on the marketing. A lot more energy and time was kind of spent in that direction. So for me, I see where both is important, but I'm a racer. Like I want to race. That's why I'm here. And it's nice to be in a team where that's the primary focus for sure. And that's kind of every decision is based on like, is this going to help us in the race? If it's even a little bit of a distraction, we're not doing it. Which I really like as a racer. And as, you know, like I said, that's my main focus and what drives me every day. So having a team that's very, very driven and focused on that is for sure nice.
And how are you getting on with Troy and Mark? Because Troy was obviously injured at the start of the season, and now you're out. Have you had a chance to do much riding with them?
With Troy, not a whole lot, because obviously, like you said, he was hurt, and also all off season with the Aussie quarantine, it was hard for him to leave. So I spent a lot of time with Mark all winter. We rode a lot together, and so far this season. But not a ton of time with the whole team, but so far it's been awesome. And I kind of knew everyone already going in, so it wasn't like a huge kind of unknown. I sort of knew what to expect, but it's sort of a shame now that Troy's back. I'm hurt and I'm gonna miss these races, so it's a bummer for that. But no, it's been really, really good, and I've really enjoyed it so far. Just feel like I haven't really been able to get involved too much. It's been literally 2 races that we were all at, so not that many yet, but still got some at the end of the year.
Yeah, you get seasons like that, don't you? You mentioned Fabian, working with him. He's a leave no stone unturned kind of guy, from what I know. I've never actually met him, but I know Chris Porter quite well, and I know he's worked with him quite a lot. Mm-hmm. Is that a good fit with you? Yeah,
really good. I knew him before, obviously, but never worked with him. And I really, really have enjoyed like getting to know him and getting to work with him. I like his approach a lot. He's so passionate and so intense. Like it's a bit much sometimes, but I really feel like it's always coming from the right place, and he just wants us to do good, and he wants the team to be successful. And at the end of the day, that's all things that are just going to help me. So no, I've gotten along really good with Fabian and Gabe and everyone in the team, but it's like Fabian's been really, really cool, and surprised me in some ways. I heard some things where it's like, oh, it's too much, it's too intense, too focused, but I like it. And I feel like the knowledge and the advice is there, and it's up to you to take it or leave it, kind of thing. He's not going to force you to do anything. It's like, here's what I would have done. This is what I think you should do. It's up to you now. Like, and I really like that. So, no, it's been good.
Are you a mess with the settings kind of guy? Are you, before you came to Canyon? Because I know he will, look at every click of rebound, every click of compression and stuff.
Yeah.
Were you a set it and leave it kind of guy before you joined?
Definitely more on the set it and leave it, set and forget train. Yeah. But it's actually been really interesting for me, because I was on a Santa Cruz for 7 years. And even though we changed wheel size, like the bike was very much the same for 7 years. So to swap everything, like not just the bike, but the suspension, brakes, wheels, everything has been pretty crazy, eye-opening experience.
Yeah.
And I feel like as I'm getting older and have a bit more experience with like bike setup and that kind of stuff, I'm starting to figure out what I like and what I don't like. And I wouldn't say becoming more picky, but definitely I feel like I know when I like my bike, and I know when I feel like something's off and I need to change it. So and that's been a huge thing for me this year. It's been really exciting to figure out all the new bike and the new suspension and everything, totally new platform to work from. So that's been, I've learned a whole lot, especially working with Fabian on that stuff. It's been cool. I've definitely learned a lot.
Cool. Well, in Fort William, you said you thought you were riding as fast as you ever have. You were 5th at the first World Cup in Lords. Then you slid out on the, well, just before the wall ride in Fort William. Have you figured out what happened there yet?
In Fort William? Yeah, I know exactly what happened. I was really struggling to see.
Right.
I hadn't done a roll off since like the boardwalk, and it was obviously raining and super muddy. So like going through that wood section before that road gap, I had a huge clump of mud on my goggle, and I couldn't see very well at all, and I was not riding very good because of it. And then I was sort of panicking a bit, and I tried to do a roll off on that little road gap, but I didn't have enough time, so I missed it. And then going around those next corners, I was focused on my goggles. I wasn't I was kind of panicking and totally lost my composure. And I ran that long left before that jump with the wall ride.
Yeah.
The left, I ran it wide, nothing crazy, but I was like a little bit offline, kind of wide. And then I was coming back into the main line, but obviously from the inside. And on the lip of that jump, I was inside of the rut. So I just slid, and that was that. Like, it was just, a stupid mistake. Like, couldn't see. And I should have just calmed down, but I was kind of panicking because I felt like I was losing time. So yeah. And then slid off right at the lip of the jump. And
some say he's still sliding now.
Yeah. I still got a little bit of a
pretty amazing video.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna, you might as well try and make some people laugh. So yeah. Got to be able to laugh at yourself. But can thank Mono for the video. It was my idea, but he did the execution.
Nice. So you got 15th in Leogang, which is like pretty solid result, and then in Lanzerheide you got 5th in quali. So that's like also amazing. You had a big crash in your race run, which resulted in a broken wrist, and that's you out for like the main chunk of races of the season. And I guess we'll be joking about this before the podcast, that a lot of people asked you and you had to explain to them how's your wrist going, and the question on the script is how's the wrist doing. So I'm afraid
where's my sign? Yeah.
you have to explain it again for the fans out there. At least like, what's your target? Like, are you going to be in time for Worlds, or what's happening?
Yeah. Well, there's like the short version, which is what I had on repeat, is like, I broke my wrist, 4 to 6 weeks. I'll be back for Worlds. But since we got time, I'll give you the full story.
Nice.
It's a bit more complicated than that. I actually crashed before Leogang, like the weekend before Leogang, before driving over. I had a silly crash and just put my hand out and tweaked my wrist, and it was super swollen and painful. But I was like, it'll be okay. I thought I just sprained it. I did get x-rays, but the x-rays didn't really show anything. So anyways, I raced Leogang with like a pretty sore wrist, not great. It was definitely a bit of a struggle, but I was able to ride, and in the race, with adrenaline and stuff, didn't bother me. But the x-ray people had emailed me during the race that, like, we think you may have actually fractured your radius. But we can't tell if it's a new fracture or an old fracture because it's very small. So I got a CT scan after the race, and I actually had a very small fracture in my radius on my right wrist. which explained the sharp pain that I felt when I was riding. So anyways, I had to take 2 weeks off the bike after that to let that heal up. And it did. It was no big deal. But then it finally was all good for Lenzerheide. But then, yeah, Lenzerheide crashed in the race, big crash, and rode down afterwards. Didn't feel a thing, just with the adrenaline. It was all good. But like 10 minutes after the race, my hand was getting like so swollen and super sore. And then like an hour later, I like couldn't move my wrist at all. So I knew something was up, but it was different. The pain, like it was in a different spot than before. So yeah, next day got scans and everything, and I broke a different bone and may have also re-broke my radius. They don't really know yet. They don't know if it didn't heal all the way from the previous crash or if it re-broke, but I definitely also re-broke a different bone, which is called the pisiform bone. Never heard of it before. It's like a really small bone in your wrist, like on the outside. So like, luckily it's not the scaphoid. It's the one here. So that's like completely broken. And that's the thing that I need to just wait for 4 to 6 weeks to let heal. It's been 2.5 weeks and it feels really good. Actually, I'm out of the cast now and I can move it around, and it's definitely feeling a lot better. So definitely going to be good for Worlds. I hope I'll be back riding in like 2 weeks. Should be no problem for World Champs, and just need to kind of get the bike fit and get back on the bike and up to speed. That'll be the big issue, but no. So yeah, it's just not a terrible injury, but terrible timing for sure, with obviously Andorra, now Snowshoe and Mont Sainte-Anne all kind of out the window. So that's the bummer right there. It's just the time of year, more than anything. So, but no surgery, and it's relatively straightforward. Just 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, if you get 2 good races from the 2 World Cup, they'll all be forgotten, I guess.
Yeah,
it's always the same.
Yeah. Totally, but yeah, no, it's definitely not what I wanted this year. I started the season really good on the podium, and I was so fired up to try and mix it up with those guys at the top, and yeah, it's kind of not gone that way, but still got some big goals for this year. So just need to get through this.
Yeah. Are you going to go up to Snowshoe? Are you going to go and watch?
I don't think so. No. I've thought about it, and I still might change my mind since I can just drive up there. But no, I think I'll stay home. It's a lot of standing around, not doing a whole lot when you're there. And it is interesting. I actually learned a lot in Andorra, being on the side of the track for once, and I just tried to pick up as many things as I could from a different perspective. And that was really interesting. And I actually enjoyed it, but watching the race is so painful. And I'm not a very good spectator in general. I'd so much rather just be doing something myself. So I'll be watching it on the couch, I think.
So we're recording this section on Wednesday night. Emmy and Jack are already in Snowshoe now. Emmy's done a track walk today and it's looking wet. Give them some tips. You've raced here before a few times, I believe. Yeah, go on. How do you ride Snowshoe in the wet?
It's a kind of a tricky one because it's flat, so you'd really need like pump for your speed, but then obviously when it's slippery, it's kind of not how you want to ride. When it's slippery, you want to be like light. So it's kind of like I feel like you really got to pick the track apart and know where you can like really put pressure in and gain some speed and kind of get that momentum going. But then there's obviously a lot of spots where it's just, there's so many roots and rocks and they're all going to be slippery, and you kind of just got to let the bike do what it wants and be loose. So it's a tricky track. I think even in the dry, I think it's hard because it's so much about momentum and carrying speed since it's not that steep. But obviously a lot of little things to kind of slip on and catch you out. So it'd be a tough race. I think it'd be interesting in the wet. I'm curious to see if it's like full wet or if it gets sticky at all. Because if it gets sticky, it's going to be even slower and even harder to keep that speed. But yeah, tips. I don't know. I'll save the tips.
It's a pretty good tip already. I feel like it's a pretty good tip already.
Yeah. Yeah. There's sections where you really need to I feel like a few key sections where you need to know exactly where you can put your wheels and really pump to get the speed. And then a few key sections where you need to really be careful and go light. So yeah, it'll be cool. I guess there's a little new section too. Is that right?
Yeah, muddy section at the top.
Yeah. So
we've been talking tires today. Would you ever run a mud tire on this track, or would you always stick with the standard?
I remember one year we raced national champs there 2 years, and it was wet both years. And I'm pretty sure I ran mud tires. Yeah, because it was mud, it was wet, but then it started to get sticky, and there was enough spots where I felt like the mud tire was a benefit. I always kind of a lot of people don't like mud tires on rocks, but I don't really mind it that much. So, but hard to say. I guess it depends what kind of options you have too.
So I reckon the top is very fresh now, so it's not like the old track where it's hard pack.
Yeah,
kind of slippery. So I guess on the top parts now, a mud tire or at least a mixed shorty type of tire will help.
Yeah.
But then obviously the rolling part is important. But I would say I think our rider's starting on the mixed tire.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one, I think, for tire choice. Yeah.
Cool.
Not an easy choice.
You described it before we started recording as a UK track, so I'm expecting big things from Jack this weekend. Well, we can't let you go without asking a question about your other half, Yolanda Neff. You're famous in downhill terms, but XC is a much broader church, and she's a mega star. Tell us what it's a bit like life with Yolanda Neff.
Yeah, it's good. I definitely don't think of her as a mega star in my mind. She's just my girlfriend, and we hardly ever talk about bikes,
right?
which is cool. But yeah, it's interesting, especially in Switzerland. She gets stopped quite often in the street and stuff. It's a bit weird, not gonna lie. But no, it's cool. It's convenient for us that we both kind of have the same job. We are on the same sort of schedule, more or less for the year, so that makes it easy. But yeah, no, it's good. It's definitely, I guess, pretty unique, but no.
And do you train together?
No.
Can you train with her? I think that's a better question.
No. If it we'll ride together. Yeah, in the winter we'll ride together. Actually, yeah, we do train together, but the training that she does and the training that I do is quite a bit different. But she does kill me on any climb that's longer than 5 minutes. That's for sure. And usually there's my excuse. Usually I'm on an enduro bike and she's on her cross country bike. So I say if I had a cross country bike, this wouldn't be a problem. But no, that's just an excuse for sure. She's a beast.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for making the time to come on the pod. It's been great to see you back up there this season, and I hope you can continue that for this season and beyond. And thank you for being so honest. There's some difficult questions in there, but I think it makes for great content. So thank you very much.
Yeah,
easy. Yeah,
Worlds, dude. Really crossing our fingers for you for when you get back. So have a good one at Worlds.
Cool.
Thanks, Jack. Have a good one this weekend. And yeah, thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Luca.
We'll be back talking Snowshoe and Mont Sainte-Anne after these messages. 3 races left in the World Cup, starting with Snowshoe. Last year it was a double header. In the women's, Valley took the win in both races. She's just won in Andorra. You can see me smiling as I'm about to ask this, Emmy. Is Valley the favourite, do you think?
I didn't even read that part of the script before. No, she's not. No. Well, she could be the favorite for Snowshoe, but I think Cam got a second and a third last year in
Yeah, she
Snowshoe,
did,
and
yeah,
that was one of the first, like one of the best results, except Logan. Logan is a different game, but like one of the favorite, like best track for her. So in Snowshoe, I'd say Cam has definitely a chance for the win. But yeah, we'll see about the other two. Well, at least MSA, like Cam has been to MSA once.
Yeah.
And it was like a long time ago, and she doesn't have like the sweetest memory about it because it's pretty straight, like I think it's pretty intimidating track. So I would say it's gonna be depending how Miriam recovers now from the disappointment, but not as same answer. Valley, Miriam, Cam, and then maybe Nina as a dark horse.
So coming into these final couple of races, how is Cammy feeling about it all? Because we talked in the intro about what you'd do if you were Amory. How's Cam doing?
Well, I think she's just trying to like take one race at a time. She's just like try to have the same approach for all of them. And I think for Snowshoe, she knows that Snowshoe Valley so suits her, and she doesn't know about MSA quite yet, but because she's evolved a lot in 3 years, like she's a completely different rider. So I think she's trying to like get the most point possible in quali as well that she's ever been doing, and then try to like be consistent as always, and to not like stay healthy. She talked about that a lot. Try to like not get over her head and crash. I think Endora taught her a lesson as well. Like try to like not maybe push too much in finals, and then we'll see where that gets her. But there could be a lot of variables in play. I think she's not going to try to change much.
No. Well, Jack, tell us a bit about the track in Snowshoe. What does it take to win there?
Well, if I knew that, George, I wouldn't share the secret. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like for the most part, I'd say it's like a bumpy pump track. Like you're flat out fast at the top with some jumps, and then middle section's a bit flatter. And I remember last year when we were all going into the third sector, all of the splits were fairly similar at that split, and then the gaps come out in the rocks. And those rocks, it's just really difficult to carry speed. If you get slightly offline, then you end up hitting something and either damaging your bike, like we saw a few riders doing, I did myself, or you just lose a shitload of speed. So, yeah, flow for sure is very important. Just maintaining flow on the track and rhythm, and obviously being fast.
I've not been to either track, but on the TV it looks a bit like Maribor. I don't know if it rides like Maribor.
It doesn't ride anything like Maribor. I see what you mean.
Does it not? Yeah. And I was thinking
it looks
Maribor,
similar, but
yeah, it looks similar, but no, it's Maribor. You can just kind of charge, whereas this one you need to be an inch there, this side of that rock, like.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So Loris isn't going to have the best memories from last year.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Reese and Loic took the win in the men's. Danny won famously in 2019. Amory's still recovering from the hit in Andorra. Finn's riding incredibly well. Who's your money on?
All right, I'm going to be controversial, I reckon. And I'm going to put my money on Finn to win in Snowshoe and Gwynny to win in Mont Sainte-Anne.
Oh.
I'll go different. I'll say Loic is going to win in Snowshoe because he doesn't have any expectation for the overall, and he's really always faster. And Finn in Mont Sainte-Anne.
You've gone exactly the same as me. I mean, that's what I think as well.
Yeah.
It might even be in the script in a minute. Hang on a sec. The bit about Finn and Mont Sainte-Anne. But I think Loic Snowshoe, I think that's a good one. So straight after Snowshoe, it's Mont Sainte-Anne. I know it's your favourite track, Jack. How excited are you for going back there?
Yeah, buzzing. We haven't been there since 2018 because of something we won't mention. And yeah, really excited. Excited to take Dan there. He'll love it. Yeah, it's just a charging track. Like it's kind of like Fort William, but with more. Like it's got different types of sections, and it took me a couple of years to get used to it. And then once it clicked, it's the opposite to Andorra. Like that new track in Andorra, you almost had to force it. And from the gate, you had to be like pushing and so fast and daring yourself to be off the brakes. Whereas Mont Sainte-Anne's not like that. If you do that too much, you end up just overcooking shit and just getting scruffy, whereas the speed is just there and you just sit into this rhythm and it's just mint when you get it right. And I think that's why Minar's always done quite well there, because he's just the king of like getting into a run and just letting the bike do its thing. So yeah, it's mint.
So the last time we raced there was, well, the last time they had a race there was Worlds in 2019, which Miriam won, and you took fifth, Emmy.
Yeah, it's probably my best world champs, I think.
Yeah.
Because I was also like on the track, I was like almost like 5 minutes something. I was only got 5 seconds back off the win, and I was already fifth. So yeah, it was one of my best world champs outs, and I really like Mont Sainte-Anne. I put him there before quite a lot. Like Jack said, like you need to get into a rhythm, and when you're kind of like a skilled rider, you can like kind of like try to like plan your run and try to execute it without like try to like taking so many risks. And I think towards the end of my career, that really was the kind of run I was looking for. I didn't want to like, that's why I mean Andorra would have been for me, because you take so many risks and you have to like ride as fast as you can, and I didn't really like that. So yeah, I'm excited to see how Cam's gonna do, because she's only been there once. Yeah, so
it sounds like it might be the type of track she could do really well on. Actually, I know she didn't when she was there.
Yeah, if she gets past this intimidating factor, like lots of the big boulders you have to ride on, and it looks like it's not gonna ride well, but when you actually like get the flow on them, it actually rides fine. And that's why every time you go back, you're like, oh, that's fine. So you just do it.
Yeah.
And then she'll be like, oh, but like that looks so gnarly, like, but it's not, because we just did it so many times. So I could try to like help her as much as I can, and maybe she could try to like ride with the junior man that's on the team, or Monica that's been there a couple of times. She can like get past that first step, and then with the consistency that she's riding, I think also like the fact that she's barely feel any arm pump as well, which I don't understand how that's possible, but probably hockey strength. That could be a good track for her as well. But don't forget, Miriam is kind of the queen of MSA, so that'll be hard.
Yeah, I think Nina might be quite a good bet as well.
I don't know. She's a sketchy rider. Have you seen her in practice? Like she's rides over everything. Like she doesn't care. She was riding the rocks in Andorra, like on tip, but like it was like banging all over the place. Of course, it's fast, but like at 50% of the time, you get a flat tire or like a broken rim, and that's what happens all the time with her riding. She either gets really good or like have a mechanical or crash. So I wouldn't say that Mont Sainte-Anne is the best track for her, because I think she either have like too many mechanicals or too many crashes before the race if it happened. But I could be wrong. I mean, she did in Fort William, so
yeah,
we'll see.
I'm not going to ask for your predictions in the women, because I think it's down to the top three, and I wouldn't.
We all know who the top three is going to be. I think Vali. I don't know how she's going to do in Mont Sainte-Anne though. She needs to calm it down. If she doesn't calm it down, she will crash.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Miriam is going to be hard to beat in Mont Sainte-Anne. I just hope like Cami gets like good points.
Yeah. Cool.
We'll see.
Well, that's all about. That's all we've got time for in this episode. I can't quite believe it. We got through with the whole thing without mentioning Discovery and Red Bull, but we have. Thanks to the sponsors of the show: Hope Technology, JTech Suspension, Revolution Bike Park, Ride Southern Spain, Schwalbe, and SingleTrackWorld.com, and of course to you guys. As always, if you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you've got a sec, please drop us a review. Alternatively, please give us a follow on Instagram at Making Up the Numbers Racing, or Facebook.com/Making Up the Numbers. It's going to be an interesting few weeks of racing as we approach what a famous football manager used to refer to as squeaky bum time. Enjoy it, everyone. We'll be back after Mont Sainte-Anne.